Hey everybody, Ryan here at Etrailer. Today on our 2022 Cadillac XT6, we're going to be showing you how to install the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver. Before we get into that though, let's take a couple minutes, check it out, and make sure it's going to work for you. So if it were me and I was wanting to put a hitch on the Cadillac, probably the first thing that would come to my mind is the appearance. You know, how's it going to look? These are really nice cars and don't want a giant hitch hanging down below being a huge eyesore. And that's not the case with this one. And that's because it actually sits behind this factory detachable panel. So whenever you're using the hitch, this is how it's going to look. It's not the cleanest in the world, but who cares? If you're using it, you're going to have an accessory or be hooked up to your trailer or whatever while this is off. But when you're all done, you can take this panel and this will snap back into place, and then on the bottom side there's a couple of screws that you can use to re-secure it. With these screws you will need a 7mm to pull these in and out, and if it were me, I would consider maybe going to the hardware store and probably run through the specialty type hardware that they got, and you might be able to find something to replace these with, maybe a thumb screw or something like that. That way you don't have to bother with the tool. But needless to say, not a huge deal. You'll pop that back up, it'll look completely factory, and you won't even see the hitch. I do want to address one of the big questions that a lot of people wonder, and that is, are you still going to be able to use your hands-free liftgate assist feature when you install the trailer hitch? And on this vehicle, the answer is yes. It'll still work like it should. Just have to kick your foot underneath to either side of the hitch, everything will open up. The hitch is going to have a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is a good thing. That's a super common size, so a lot of stuff will work with it. It is going to use the standard 5/8 pin and clip. Keep in mind though, one doesn't come with the hitch. If you need one, not a huge deal, and grab it here at Etrailer. A lot of times, if you end up buying a new accessory, they'll come with one, so just something to look out for. Safety chain openings are a plate style, and they're kind of tucked back a little bit, so not the easiest in the world to get to, but again, not really a deal breaker. But good news is they're going to be large enough to allow us to use just about any size hook that our trailer might have on it. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, it's going to have some pretty good numbers. Maximum gross tongue weight rating is going to be 675 pounds, so that's the amount of weight pushing down of the hitch. So that's more than enough for just about any size bike rack or cargo carrier, just to give you an example. As far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating, that's going to be 4,500 pounds. That's the amount of weight pulling on the hitch, so the weight of your trailer plus anything you might have in or on it. I do always like to recommend though, never a bad idea, just to grab your Cadillac's owner's manual. That way you can check in there and make sure that your SUV can handle that much weight safely. You can go ahead now and grab a couple of measurements, and these will help us figure out what type of accessories will work best. So from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's taking into account the lift that we're parked on as well. That's going to end up setting it right about 19 inches. So if you're pulling a trailer, chances are pretty good you can use a ball mount that has a drop in the shank. Probably that 2 to 4 inch range would work well for a lot of people. And if you're using an accessory, it's pretty high off the ground, so even if it has a straight shank, you should be in good shape there. If you have one that has a rise in it, even better, get more ground clearance. If you go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 6 inches, which is decent. But if need be, you can use that to figure out exactly if any of those folding style accessories you might have can be stored upright without hitting the back of your Cadillac. So when it comes down to it, a good option for the Cadillac, being able to put that factory panel back on and keep everything clean and hidden. The fact that it gives us good capacities and things like that, it's definitely going to get the job done in just about any scenario. As far as the installation goes, you do have to remove the rear fascia. Don't let that intimidate you though. It's really not as bad as you might think. Only a handful of fasteners. They're all pretty easy to get to, and this just bolts up. So, if you're going to be doing it yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be working underneath the back of our Cadillac, and along the bottom edge here, we're going to have some screws that we need to pull out. So there's going to be a total of 6, 3 on each side, and I will use a 7mm socket to do that. And with these 2 here in the middle, that'll actually let you release this detachable panel. So I'll just get that out of the way and get these other 2 removed. You can now move to the corner of your fascia, so kind of where it meets your wheel well. And right there, you're going to have a T15 Torx bit screw. And I want to mention from this point on, whenever we do to one side, we'll also do to the other side, because it'll be set up the same way. And then moving into here, there's going to be these 2 plastic fasteners. And what you can do with these is take a flathead screwdriver, kind of just push down on it and up to get it released. So I'll do that for this one as well. And then you can kind of take this lower piece and just kind of work it free. You don't have to get carried away. You just want to buy enough space, because eventually we'll remove this piece and we need the clearance there. What we're able to do now on our actual wheel well along this edge, there's going to be some screws holding it in that we need to pull out. There's going to be a total of 3 of them just like this that run from here down. Grab our T15 Torx bit, and we'll get these removed. Once you have all of them out, what you can do, just kind of grab the liner, kind of fold it in on itself like this to give us some working room back here. What we're able to do now, this trim piece around our wheel well, you can get that removed, you know, about up to here. And I put some painter's tape where we're going to be working so we don't scratch anything up. And the way this works, it's held in place with some push pin fasteners. So I'm going to come in from behind and kind of squeeze on that fastener to work it out, which I'll show you what I'm doing once I get it out. So that's the fastener there. All right, when I was coming in behind with my fingers, I was kind of just pinching it and pulling outward on it. It's these, here's where they're coming out of the back, and like I said, if you kind of just take your finger and work it, you'll eventually get it to pop free. So we'll just work our way all the way up here. Once you get to about this point, I like to take a rag or something, just kind of put it like that, and kind of keep this pulled away. And with it like that, that will expose this fastener here that we can remove. So I'll grab our T15 and get that pulled out. Something that you probably don't have to do, but I'm going to do it since you're right here, is actually remove this fastener on each side of the T15. And that's because our fascia right here, there is a small lip that kind of goes up under it. And so by pulling that screw out, I think it'll, just give us a little more working room. If you have someone to give you a hand with removing the fascia, it definitely makes things easier. So what you want to do is start at the corner, and I like to just kind of shake it loose, work it around, and this unsnaps. It's actually coming apart fairly easy. So we'll just work our way around here until it pops off. And be careful, you may or may not have some electrical wiring. It looks like, in our case, over on the driver's side, we're gonna have 2 that we need to disconnect. So you just push down on that center tab, separate it. This one's pretty similar, but you'll have a red retainer that you can pull back on. Then push down on the tab to get it released. And actually too, this connector here is going to be kind of pushed onto a stud, so you can pop that free. And now we can set this off to the side out of the way. What I'm going to do now is support our exhaust with the strap. I'm going to run it from side to side, and that's because some of the bolts that we're going to take out to use as attachment points are actually helping to hold the exhaust up. And so I just want it to have a little extra help when we're doing that. That way we don't damage anything. So I'll run this from side to side and tighten up our strap. Moving here where our bumper beam's attached, we'll have 4 pieces of hardware. So these 2 bolts, 15mm socket. Kind of take the exhaust hanger, lift it up and off of that tab, and then 2 15mm head nuts up here. I already got the other side of our vehicle removed, but I put one back on hand tight to help kind of support this. That way it don't fall on us when we remove this last nut. And with all of them free, should be able to get this removed. Grab our hitch now, and this is actually going to replace our bumper beam. All right, so this is going to slide into position there. You can take our factory hardware and get these nuts on top started and tight. So with these hand tight, you can actually center the hitch. You can push it side to side, which I've done. Just kind of make sure everything lines up. And then with this, that'll kind of go back onto that hanger. Again, you'll take your factory bolts and get them going. We'll go ahead, now that everything's in place, our 15mm, snug these down. I kind of like to make an X pattern to kind of help draw everything in evenly. And once you have both sides snug, you need to make sure to come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. At this point, I just kind of want to throw this out there. If you're going to be hooking up trailer wiring, now would be an excellent time to do so. And I say that because the factory connectors are going to be located right here. And so with the trailer wiring for this Cadillac, it just plugs into these connectors. You can do it with the fascia on, but you got a ton of room here. So we're not doing that today, but I thought it was definitely worth mentioning. So we're ready to reinstall our fascia now. Don't forget too that strap that we had under the exhaust, you can remove that. But get your electrical connectors plugged in, and once we have them all connected, this is essentially just going to go back together the exact opposite way that we removed it here. So we're all plugged in. We'll carefully get everything lined up. And snap back into place. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver on our 2022 Cadillac XT6.